All right, ready to decode another home comfort mystery. Today, it's all about split-system air conditioners. You know those wall-mounted marvels that keep Melbourne summers bearable? We're going deep on how they work, what to look for if you're buying, all that good
Sure.
stuff. And to guide us, we've got insights from Plum Heating and Cooling, Melbourne experts with like a gazillion glowing Google reviews. Seriously, over 2,500. They must be doing something right. So, first things first. What even is a split system? Besides a fancy way to say AC, that is. Basically, it's two units working together, hence the split. Inside, you've got the part that actually blows cool air, sleek, and hopefully quiet.
Right. And outside is the workhorse, usually tucked away, dealing with the heat.
So it's like a tag team effort to combat Melbourne's mood swings, weather-wise, I mean. But how does it actually work? Anyone remember that refrigerant stuff from science class?
Oh, absolutely. That's the key. It cycles between the units, picking up heat inside, and then dumping it outside like a tireless little worker bee.
Okay, I like that analogy. So the indoor unit's like, here's your heat, bye. And the outdoor unit's all, into the atmosphere you go.
Exactly. And this constant cycling keeps the cool air flowing where you want it.
So much more sophisticated than just blowing air around, huh?
Oh, way more. There's some clever engineering going on in those systems.
All right, before we get too deep into the tech side, for anyone who's like, refrigerant, is that what my fridge uses? Let's simplify. Imagine a tiny, super efficient postal service operating between your living room and your backyard. The indoor unit is the pickup point, gathering all the heat and loading it onto the refrigerant like it's a delivery truck. Then that refrigerant zooms off to the outdoor unit, our processing center, and unloads all that heat outside. And finally, cooler and lighter, the refrigerant zips back inside for another pickup, and the cycle repeats.
That's a great way to put it. It's all about transferring the heat, not just masking it.
Exactly, and doing it efficiently.
But we'll get into the nitty-gritty of energy savings and all that jazz in a bit. For now, let's stick with this whole two-part system thing, because that separation is a big reason why split systems have some serious advantages. I mean, think about those old window units, rattling and shaking like a
Melbourne tram on a bumpy track.
perfect analogy. Not exactly conducive to a good night's sleep.
That's where split systems really shine. They're known for being much quieter. All right, so we've got our tiny postal service working tirelessly to keep things cool. And it does it all without sounding like a jet engine taking off. But what's in it for you, besides a comfortable temperature? Well, split systems come with some pretty sweet perks.
Silent and efficient, might I add.
Right, we were going to get into that whole energy-saving thing, weren't we?
We were, and it's a big one, especially with energy prices these days.
No kidding. So Plum's guide mentioned that split systems can really take a bite out of those electricity bills.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to that whole split concept we talked about.
Right, having separate units for inside and outside.
Exactly. Studies have shown that a well-chosen split system can potentially slash your cooling costs by up to 30% compared to those power-hungry central AC units.
30%. All right, now you're speaking my language.
It's a worthwhile investment. Plus, you're reducing your environmental impact, too. So it's a win-win.
Okay, gotta love a bit of eco-friendliness with our creature comforts. But hey, energy efficiency isn't the only thing those split systems have going for them, right? There was that other biggie we touched on earlier, the peace and quiet.
Music to my ears, literally.
Right. I mean, remember those old window units? Sounded like a jet engine trying to take off.
Not exactly conducive to a good night's sleep, or a relaxing evening, for that matter.
Tell me about it. Used to drive me crazy trying to watch a movie with that constant rattling in the background. But split systems, they're practically ninjas when it comes to noise.
Exactly. They're designed with whisper-quiet operation in mind, which is a godsend, especially here in Melbourne.
Especially during those heat waves when you need the AC running all night long.
Yeah, exactly. You can finally get a good night's sleep without feeling like you're sleeping next to a wind turbine.
All right, so we've got quiet, efficient, and of course, they keep you cool. Sounds like a dream come true so far.
They do have a lot going for them. But, of course, choosing the right split system is crucial.
Oh, that's right. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal, is it? It's definitely not one-size-fits-all. How do you know which split system is right for your space? It can't just be about picking the one with the biggest numbers on the box, can it?
Definitely not. Bigger isn't always better. In fact, a unit that's too large for your space can actually end up costing you more in the long run.
How so? I figured more power, better cooling, right?
Well, yes and no. You see, a system that's too large will cool the room too quickly and then cycle on and off more frequently. And those constant cycles actually waste more energy than a properly sized unit that runs consistently.
Ah, so it's like that saying, slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. Plus, an oversized unit can struggle to remove humidity effectively, leaving your space feeling clammy and uncomfortable.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, not too big, not too small, just right.
Precisely. Plum's guy had a good point about considering factors like the size of the room, insulation, and even which way your windows face.
Right, right. Because a west-facing room gets a lot more afternoon sun than one facing east, I'd imagine.
Exactly. All those factors come into play when determining the right size and output for your needs.
Okay, so it sounds like professional help is probably a good idea here.
It's definitely the smartest move. An HVAC technician can properly assess your space, taking all those variables into account.
And save you from a costly mistake down the line, I'd bet.
Absolutely. They can calculate the exact cooling capacity you need, recommend suitable models, and even handle the installation to make sure it's all up to code.
Makes sense to leave it to the pros. Speaking of which, what about maintenance? Are split systems pretty high maintenance once they're installed?
Actually, they're quite the opposite. Split systems are generally very low maintenance, especially compared to those older AC types.
Oh, good to hear. So, what's the bare minimum I need to do to keep things running smoothly?
The golden rule is to keep those filters clean. Remember, we talked about the indoor unit being like the pickup point for heat?
Right, with our little postal service analogy.
Well, the filters are like the gateway to that system. A dirty filter restricts airflow, making the system work harder and potentially impacting its efficiency.
So it's like trying to breathe through a stuffy nose. Makes you work harder and not very comfortable either.
Exactly. And over time, that extra strain can lead to reduced lifespan and even costly repairs.
Okay, so clean filters, got it. How often should we be doing this?
A good rule of thumb is to check them monthly and clean or replace them every 1 to 3 months.
Monthly. Seems like a lot.
It can depend on a few factors, like whether you have pets, allergies, or if you live in a particularly dusty or polluted area.
True, Melbourne's springtime pollen can be pretty intense.
Exactly. If you notice the filter looking visibly dirty, it's definitely time for a change.
All right, so regular filter checks and changes are key. Anything else we need to be mindful of?
It's always a good idea to keep an eye out for any unusual sounds or changes in performance.
Like strange noises or if it's not cooling as well as it used to.
Exactly. Those can be early warning signs that something might be off.
And in those cases, best to call in the pros, right?
Absolutely. Don't try to fix it yourself unless you really know what you're doing. A qualified technician can diagnose the problem and prevent further damage.
Safety first. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Split systems, what they are, how they work, the benefits, how to choose the right one, how to keep them happy.
And perhaps most importantly, how to stay cool and comfortable here in Melbourne without breaking the bank.
Exactly. And if any of our listeners find themselves sweating the details, remember, Plum Heating and Cooling's Guide is a goldmine of info.
It's where we got all our insights today, and they've got even more on their website.
Perfect. Well, on that note, I think it's time for me to go crank up my split system and enjoy some perfectly chilled air. Until next time, Melbourne, stay cool.